Welcome to the Sabres Draft Show, presented by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar with Marty Biron. I'm Brian Duff. Draft comes up July 7th and 8th in Montreal. Marty, when you think back to the draft's origins, it was in Montreal for the first couple of decades, and it was the home where the legend of Taro Tsujimoto grew. I don't think we're going to venture down that path with the Sabres selections. They've got 3 first-rounders this year. They are slated to make a whole slew of picks. All this on the heels of what they've already accrued in the last 4 drafts, dating back to Rasmus Dahlin, first overall in 2018.
Yeah, and where the Sabres are right now is they are in a development mode, and these draft picks are so important to continue developing the players either at the college rank, European ranks, junior ranks, and then bring them along to the NHL. Going through Rochester, obviously, and we saw the Amherst having a great development year and a successful season this year. So yeah, these will be important for not next season, but the 3, 4, 5 years down the road to see as many of them try to make it to the NHL.
It'll be the 3rd time in franchise history, if they make all the selections, that they'll have 3 in the first round, and first time in 40 years since they've been in that situation. Basically, you go back to 82 and 83 when they combined 6 over those first 2 rounds. In the last 4 drafts, we have seen 9 picks come up through 1 through 34, and obviously we're well aware of those names. When you look at what lies ahead here for Kevin Adams and company, as you see their draft positions as it stands right now, do you feel like they are in a position to target specific positions based on what assets they currently have?
I think you can be a little bit more flexible. It's not like they have the first overall pick and the guy that's being picked is either Rasmus Dahlin or Owen Power, and you got to go, well, we're taking a defenseman. There's no really debate into that. He's the number 1 consensus at the time you pick him. Now, at 9 especially, you can look at if you're thin at wing or you want somebody down the middle. I would always opt for the centerman because you can always move them to the wing, and they seem to always mature and develop better, and the hockey sense is right there. And I would say, this is my personal opinion, that we have a lot of young defensemen in the organization. So I would probably steer away from a defenseman early on. But again, if somebody you really like is there, you got to go and make that pick.
All right, let's see what they can mine at 9. We have consulted our draft experts, as we do on an annual basis here in our draft preview shows. Let's start with Matthew Savoy.
Matt Savoy is a guy, you go on YouTube and type in Savoy, you watch this kid, he's all over the ice. And I really like his aggression shorthanded. I really like it. He'll track pucks, he'll do whatever it takes to get that puck back. And once he has it, great playmaker, great set of hands, he makes it all happen.
A undersized center, but he plays with such tenacity. There's quickness there. He's gotten some edge to his game. It's not something that you would say, oh, that's the standout trait of his game, because the skill is there as well. He had great production this year in the WHL, played on, one of the best teams in all of junior hockey this year in the Winnipeg Ice.
Even if he is a winger in the NHL, he can be a really dynamic winger. He's an excellent skater. He has a really high skill level, makes a lot of plays. He can score goals. He's not the biggest guy, around 5'9", but he is highly competitive. He killed penalties for the ice. He can win battles. So he was a very attractive player for a lot of reasons.
Well, with Savoy, obviously, he has the talent, but he played as a 15-year-old in the WHL, so you know that early on he was always pegged to be an NHL player, so the pedigree is definitely there.
His playoff run came to an end prematurely due to a shoulder injury. He did not test here at the Combine in Buffalo. We'll keep an eye on Savoy. He, of course, is top 5 ranked among North American skaters for Central Scouting. Also top 5, but on the European side would be Marco Casper.
Casper is more of a complete player. I think there's maybe a little bit of a shorter ceiling in terms of the offense he can bring to the table, but not deficient in that area at all. But because he's a responsible guy, he may not be always put in the situations where he can produce that high-level offense.
He's got a bit of a nasty streak. He doesn't shy away from contact. He's very aggressive defensively. He's very aggressive on loose pucks and puck battles. So he has this kind of NHL skill set. He's the kind of guy that you can win with because he's going to do the dirty work. And I think that's something that's very valuable.
He's not an overly flashy player like a Savoy is, but he's very well-rounded. He's 6'1", he skates well, he competes really hard. There is offense there. I think it's more secondary offense in the NHL. If he's a center, it's probably a second-line center or maybe a second-line wing. I don't think he's going to be a big-time offensive guy, but I think he'll be a very good pro because there's a lot of elements there in his game.
Well, with Casper, he's a 200-foot center, right? So you look at the way the Sabres are built with Thompson, Middlestat, even Peyton Krebs, you got Cousins. So I don't know if there's a fit for him in the future of the Sabres, but he's definitely a good position to add.
We should be partial to Austrians based on Thomas Vanek's success. Of course, Casper's dad played at the Olympics and the Worlds. And the note that I love the most, that it's the most relevant, he was a Champions League champion, Marty. And that sometimes says it all. On to Cutter Gauthier.
Cutter Gauthier reminds me a lot of Max Pacioretty. You know, he can score with one shot. You know, and he can score from 40 feet. And you know, it's off his stick, it's accurate, it's got velocity, it's quick. And so now you start to think about some of the abilities they have to shoot the puck. I mean, you can start right with Tage Thompson. Well, now you got threats coming from a lot of different areas on the ice.
He's a guy that has a killer shot. He's got power in his game, really good game away from the puck as well. He's defensively sound. You know, I think that a lot of scouts love the size package. You know, he's 6'3", over 200 pounds. He's headed to Boston College, and obviously they've developed a lot of pro players.
He could skate, he's got offense, he plays both ways. Some teams think he did play some center this season, some think he could be a center as an NHL player. So I'm not saying he won't for sure be there, anything is possible. But if he was there in that 6 to 10 window, I think whatever team would pick him there would be really excited about it.
Well, Cutter Gauthier, the son of a goaltender, so you have to think that the hockey IQ is right up through the chart because he learned everything from his dad.
Well, not everybody would think that, but I know someone who would. Jonathan Lekkerimäki, just a really intriguing prospect, especially so based on his success at the World Under-18.
With the puck on his stick is as dangerous in the offensive zone as anybody in the draft. So that is what you're looking for in Lekkerimäki. You're looking for a game breaker. He's going to score goals on the first power play. He's going to have the puck on his stick a lot of the time. And you want him to be that guy. You want the puck in his hands, making plays, making decisions, and using that skill, especially as a scorer.
A really good playmaker. He's slippery, he's evasive. He's elusive, you know, and he's a player that can show up all of a sudden, like Pastrnak. Oh, where did he go? Oh, it's in the net. He's celebrating a goal. Just such an ease to his play.
Not just a shooter, not just a passer. They are the guys that can do both, and I think those are guys that have higher value. And so, you know, if I'm looking at where you can slot him in, you know, I think he's got top 6 winger potential. He's a wing. He's a guy that, you know, will be there to be on your power play. Will help you run a power play sometimes as well, depending on who's available and how he progresses. But big-time goal scorer, I like him a lot.
This is where it's interesting because Lekkerimäki was really good in juniors and just average with the pros, but there's a big discrepancy with the age at that time. So tough to assess where he really is for this draft.
You're right about that, especially with the European leagues, but that's what makes this next prospect all the more interesting because despite his age, he had immediate success in Liga. We're talking of Joaquin Camel.
Camel's another one of those similar mold a little bit to Lekkerimäki, where it's a 5'11", 6-foot winger who can really shoot the puck, and the stick handling, and it's more of a flash package than maybe the checking sort of well-rounded package. But he can put the puck in the net, and he's going to be sort of an offensive weapon, and they're going to need more of those in this next chapter in Buffalo.
He just scores goals wherever he goes, whether it's at the junior or the professional or international levels. This guy's a goal scorer, but it's not just the shot and the skill. He's also a really fierce competitor. He's on the back check, he engages, he wins battles, good skater too. This is a guy I think could be a really quality top 6 winger in the NHL.
Well, you know, as a former goaltender, nothing scares me more than a very big, heavy shot. And Camel has a top 3 shot in this draft, according to the experts.
I would argue that an unprepared host might scare you more. Wow. I will say this, Buffalo finds itself at 9 for only the second time in franchise history. Now, we mentioned that they had 3 picks in 1982. Paul Cyr was one of them at number 9. Now, sadly, we lost Paul a decade ago. The rugged winger played nearly 500 NHL games, scoring just over 100 goals. He happened to score 3 of them in succession in the third period on a March night in 1983. It's the only time in Sabres history that they've entered a game down 2-0 in the third and had the same guy score all 3 goals in the third. It's crazy, and yet that's what happens through the draft. You put players in a position to make memories.
Yeah, and this is a really good nugget to know that the same player, natural hat trick to win the game in the third period. But obviously, picking at 9 for me is where the Sabres can definitely get a quality player for a shorter range, right? Maybe 2 to 3 years. Later in the first round and in the draft, you're looking at 4 or 5 years down the road, and a lot of development put into that.
That's what we do in our next episode as we zero in on the middle of the first round as Buffalo is slated to pick number 16. We look forward to joining you for that, thanks to our friends at Coca-Cola Zero Sugar.